Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is the Weekly Spinner Rack. I'm your host, Chris. We're going to talk about comics all night. I hope you like comic books or manga or bande dessinée. I'm laughing because I didn't mean to, but my voice just, I hope you like comics. It's just such a weird voice came out of me there. I'm amusing myself. Should be a fun show tonight. I feel like not quite as much news as some weeks, but I think we'll have fun riffing on it. Me, the chat, you at home. And definitely have a few interesting comics to talk about, and I'll be sketching and just chatting at the very end. I hope you guys had a nice New Year's. We didn't really do anything special here. What did we do for New Year's Eve? I guess we just, I worked. I worked New Year's Eve and New Year's Day at my day job. We weren't closed for the holiday or anything. So I was working, but Chrissy and I still had dinner and watched the finale of Stranger Things. I could talk more about that show towards the end because I want to talk about comics tonight. Tell you what, before I go too far, I just want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this episode. So without any further ado, let me add something to the stage here.
Hey gang, it's Greg Pak.
And Fred Van Lente.
You may remember us from such comics as The Incredible Hercules,
Weapon X,
and Alpha Flight.
and the stunning how-to book called Make Comics Like the Pros.
It's amazing. Well, we have a new book about a muscle-bound dude that's very funny. You may be familiar with him from a certain fairy tale movie. He is
Gaston.
And we're in this French bistro, as you can tell. We've spared no expense for this video to tell you how excited we are to be doing this with Dynamite as part of their Disney Villain series, and working once again with the great editor Nate Cosby and fantastic artists.
A brilliant, fluid, astounding artist named Malena Ciccarello. No, I'm sorry. Yes, Ciccarello. I did say it right.
Excellent, excellent. Well done. They're very smooth. That's
Yes.
nice. And it will be coming out very soon in 2026. FOC is soon. Watch this space. And we hope you dig it. It's going to be very funny. It's going to be full of action.
You know Gaston, the big conceited oaf from Beauty and the Beast.
It's a prequel story, and you get to find out how he winds up in the village where we see him at the beginning of Beauty and the Beast.
And he is delightfully, incredibly annoying.
Not unlike some people we may know.
I don't know who you're talking about,
I
Fred.
don't know. Okay, cool. So anyway, get it. Get Gaston.
Get good.
From
Get
Dynamite. Dynamite Comics. Do it. Do it.
Very cool. That seems fun. Man, some people are massive, massive fans of Gaston. My buddy Harry Partridge, who has done, for instance, the animated opening to the Comic Tropes show, and of course, he's done tons of his own animations, including Starbarians. Put out a comic book called Starbarian Tales this past year. He loves Gaston, just like finds him amusing and interesting, and just loves the animation. So I got a kick, though, out of seeing Fred and Greg and their friendship. I think that's really fun. Hey, it's my sister. Lovely to have you here, Jeansy. We are going to have a good show tonight. Let's see. What do we have going on? Let me think. You know what I'll do? I'll put up a banner so that you've got an idea of where we are in the show, because there's several news items and reviews and stuff like that. And we'll kick it off with the news. Yeah, I think it's a good time to just get it on with. Get on with it. You got nothing to interest us, old man. Just talk to us about the cool new comics. Okay.
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi guys, this is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
I've got some really nice comments filtering in. Thank you very much, Brunson. I'm a big fan of Love and Rockets. I actually got this at the Fantagraphics store one time when I was hanging out with this guy. West Coast Avengers, and I was on his New Year's live stream. That's what I did on New Year's. I was like, I know I did something other than watch TV. Yeah, Dave had a fun live stream, and we just talked about comics. It was great. A really big show. So why wait? And let's just get on with it. What's our first piece of news? Let's follow up on Marvel's first attempt at blind bags. So last week in the news, I shared with you that the Ultimate Endgame blind bags had between an 80 to 100% chance of having damage, specifically on the spines. Penguin Random House really packed them in a very strange manner. It led to almost all of them being damaged. And, you know, how much you care about a few spine ticks is up to you. I wouldn't care that much, but I totally understand that a lot of people do, especially for an item that is a collector's item. And I've got a follow-up story about my experience with the Ultimate Endgame blind bag, but I'll get to that. Let me tell you the news first, and then you'll get to hear my amusing tidbit. Whee! And I'll have a little more coffee so that I've got high energy. So anyway, we know that there are damages. They came out this week to actual, customers. So how's Marvel handling the damages? Well, Marvel themselves didn't put out a statement, but due to how large the issue was, lots of comic book stores obviously reaching out to the distributor, see how are you handling returns or damages, etc. Penguin Random House was basically forced to issue a reply, and they gave specific instructions to the comic book store. It's very old-fashioned fix, very old-fashioned. Good afternoon. Thank you for providing the details on your recent claim, and we apologize for the damages you've experienced. We've shared the feedback with the publisher, and due to the size of this claim, stripped covers of this quantity have been requested to be sent to the Marvel office address below at customer expense. So if you want to get refunded for a damaged cover that you don't even know is damaged until you open the blind bag, you have to rip the cover off, and then the store has to pay to ship all the covers to Marvel, and then they'd get refunded, which is basically kind of what they did back in the day with the newsstand. They would, to get anything that wasn't sold, you didn't return it. You didn't have back issues for newsstands back in the day. So what they do is they were instructed to tear off the cover. They'd return those to the distributor, and they'd get refunded for any that they weren't sold. It was also, it meant that Marvel, DC, other publishers like Archie, Harvey, they were motivated to get that sales number correct. They didn't want to do too much overage. Of course, they don't want to do underage. So that's what they used to do. And then here's the thing, though. Since the comic stores not comic stores back then, I'm talking newsstands, since they didn't have to return the comic itself, they would often sell those for way less, like pennies, like a coverless comic. That was definitely a thing you could find in the city. And I've seen them at shows, but honestly, not in the last few decades. But they used to just, have old issues of X-Men or Spider-Man or Batman just without the cover. And it was worth, of course, way, way less. But anyway, I don't feel like Marvel did a great job with that. But here's, let's see. I didn't get the cover I wanted. That's too bad. Dave opened 2 on his live stream, and he got the 2 that he said he was hoping for. So he lucked out. I'm sorry that you didn't. I didn't get one at all. I have to admit, I kind of like blind bags here and there. It's a gimmick. It's probably long-term bad for the industry. Sometimes the excitement of who's drawing them and not knowing what's inside, it's enough to excite me. I've gotten a bunch of blind bags. I have. And I would have gotten this one, except I had my days completely off. I legit, you can watch it, I think, on Dave's live stream, where he or maybe I asked him just before we went live, but I'm like, oh, I saw that you opened a blind bag. How did you get it early? He's like, I didn't get it early, Chris. Today's Wednesday. And I was like, oh, I was working all day. I forgot to go to the comic shop. I thought it was Tuesday because I've just been working so many days in a row at my day job, and I get a different schedule every week. I had my days off. So by the time I showed up on Thursday, absolutely some of the stuff I wanted to get was sold out. Oh, Chuck's being a silly Billy. Oh, it was before we went live. We should have had that live. I'm my stupid mistake. I was like, wait, what? It's Wednesday? I felt so dumb. Oh, thanks for the support, Steve. I hope you know I never take that for granted. Baja blasting my way to get acknowledged. I appreciate it. I appreciate it very, very much. So I was a little bummed out. I just got the regular just cover so that because I want to read the comic, but I didn't get the blind bag. I haven't heard yet. One thing that Marvel did beyond having original art by Juan Frigeri and Peach Momoko was they even had 4 sketches that Robert Downey Jr. did. I mean, that's basically like putting a Willy Wonka golden ticket in a comic book, it is. But I haven't seen anything in like news sites or social media about someone talking about getting any of that original art yet. I thought that stuff would be all over. And I feel like that kind of kills the point of doing it that way, right? Blind bags are already popular, but they put in original art into some of these bags at random to really increase the hype factor. And personally, I'm out there looking for news, and I didn't see anybody saying like, oh my God, I got an original Peach Momoko sketch. I didn't see anybody say that. Honestly, yes, Robert Downey Jr. did very well. He may have had something to go off of. I don't know. Yeah, I'll talk about it tonight, but actually the story is pretty good. Just the short version. It's pretty good. It's interesting. I'll talk about it in more detail once we get to the reviews section. Anyway, quite a bit of nonsense with the damages. This was some news. I'm not going to show everything, but if you didn't know, the trailer for the third trailer for Avengers Doomsday got leaked. The first 2 are up. One's got a Captain America thing. One's got a Thor thing. There's a third one with the X-Men. It's not out, so I'm not going to show you all of that, but I needed to show you this one shot so that you've got context for what I'm about to talk about. Let me acknowledge this super chat too. Mental health matters. Rest is not laziness, it's care. Taking time to pause, sleep, and recharge helps your mind heal and grow stronger every day. That's great advice. I've been fighting so much depression. I'm not doing great these days. So that actually makes me feel happy, though. Thanks, Steve. Anyway. Oh, and if you are out there looking for this trailer, just know it's frustrating. You could either see this sort of low-res version of the real trailer, or people used AI to recreate it, and it's not completely accurate. It's so weird the world we live in, where we can't trust what we see with our own eyes. So anyway, Bo DeMeo, he made a tweet because he's the guy that ran X-Men 97. So Bo DeMeo, showrunner for X-Men 97, Marvel let him go after season 1, allegedly because he was harassing his coworkers. He keeps popping up in the news with all sorts of hot takes. He got in the news this week reacting to the leaked third Avengers Doomsday trailer. Specifically, he attacked the MCU, posting, "It does trouble me that I've seen Kevin," he means Kevin Feige, "and Marvel Studios credit Jon Favreau and other white creators for setting the tone and direction of the MCU, but completely ignoring the work of the many Black, queer, Asian, and Latino teammates that actually set the tone." Which I'm not 100% sure that's fair, because I feel like Ryan Coogler gets a ton of credit for the Black Panther movies. As just one example, I mean, do some of the other people not get as much credit? Maybe. But also I feel like, is it Daniel Destin Cretton who directed Shang-Chi, and now he's directing Spider-Man? I feel like that's a pretty big step up too, and that he is getting a lot of credit. So I don't quite know what DeMeo means by this, but he continues. He says, more disheartening is seeing fellow artists like the Russo brothers completely ignoring our hard work and contributions, and that we did it with a quarter of the resources and support they've been given. I mean, I don't know what his comparison there is, though, because, I mean, doing a cartoon is obviously not going to have the same budget as, you know, a big live action superhero movie. So of course the resources aren't going to be the same. The only thing I will say that he's got some, I'll give him some credit, is, you know, he did do a lot to make Cyclops the main character of X-Men 97. He did. And I like Cyclops personally. I don't think he's always been written well, but I like him as a character. I like him when he's a hero and when he's, you know, competent, and I don't know, I like him. And there's this moment in here where, you know, he just falls to his knees and does a big optic blast, which reminds me of his intro in the cartoon. Although it's not like Bo DeMeo created that. That was part of what the original cartoon intro was. It got me thinking, though. This is probably a weird long shot. It's not based on anything. This is idle speculation. But I do wonder, in a way, if when we see some of these X-Men, if maybe they aren't supposed to be the Fox movies live action characters, but maybe they're supposed to be the version that we've seen in the cartoons. And I know at first that sounds crazy, but the continuity of the Fox movies is a total mess. So it's like, what exactly would it be based on? Because there are multiple iterations of characters that show up. Like, you know, it's like, which version of Psylocke or Caliban are we talking about? There have been movies that have completely contradictory takes on those same characters. So it's like, what universe are they in? I'm saying, yeah, like, what if the X-Men in the Doomsday movie, what if they're the X-Men animated series? I don't know. It's like, it would at least sort of be simple in a sense. I don't know that, like, they'll go to any length to explain that, but maybe nothing that contradicts it. Yes, I don't disagree with you that the movies can be more coherent than the comics, but those movies are all over the place. Like, it's just weird. I don't know. Just a weird idea that I had when I was looking at those images. I was like, oh, I wonder, would they do something like that? I'm not sure. No, it's true. There probably are a bunch. For instance, like, did Chloe Zhao get a lot of credit? She did the Eternals. And no, because the Eternals didn't do well. At the same time, I don't think the Eternals was a completely bad movie in and of itself. It wasn't a great adaptation of the Jack Kirby material. It also wasn't the best Jack Kirby material, if I'm being honest. I still like it a lot because it's Jack Kirby, so it looks cool. It's not the best story. It's not the best characters. The movie was probably, it had too many characters. It was kind of bloated, but it looked good. And Chloe Zhao is a great director. I think she had some interesting ideas in it. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. This should be on your radar if it isn't. Even if you're not a big Star Wars fan, there's a few exceptional Star Wars comics that you should read. So Marvel is going to release Star Wars Legends, the newspaper strips omnibus. And that's going to be an omnibus that collects all the newspaper Star Wars comics, as well as the comics that were being made at the same time. And it comes out this summer. So they're going to colorize things. It's basically an updated version of something Dark Horse did release. But in my opinion, it's some of the best art that Star Wars has ever had. They were originally published between 79 and 84. And like, it was set between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back then. The newspaper strip was. And it had some of the best Star Wars art. I'm talking Russ Manning, super underrated. Great artist of some war comics, also did a bunch of the G.I. Joe designs for the animated series, but like his level of realistic detail in his war stuff is incredible. And then later strips by Archie Goodwin and Al Williamson. I believe that's who we're seeing here on this cover. Such beautiful, beautiful artwork. The planets look lush and organic. The characters are dynamic, but realistic. It's from that Alex Toth type of school, you know, only adding the lines that are needed. Oh, I don't know exactly how many strips are in there. It was several years. It was right towards the tail end of when newspaper strips were still pretty darn powerful. Yeah. Oh, Russ Manning did a ton of great stuff, just to be clear. Right. I heard about that. Yeah. That IDW did the Al Williamson sort of what do they even call those, like artist edition essentially. Anyway, I just wanted to put it on people's radar that this is coming out this summer. If you like Star Wars, you'll definitely like it. It's new stories, but they're really cool, and the art is just amazing. Some of the best Star Wars art out there. Look at that, over 1,000 pages, 125 admittedly, but that's a pretty big comic. And just wanted to put it on people's radar. I think it's as much as something from Star Wars can be, it's underrated. And I know Star Wars is very popular, so it's like, what are you talking about, Mr. Comic Tropes? Call me Mr. Comics. Anyway, I think it's cool. For the art alone, but the stories were fun. I remember reading them. It was close to when I was discovering newspaper strips. Well, I guess I was aware of some of the funny comic strips way earlier now that I think of it. Of course I was. But there was an era, where I could tell that the newspaper comic strip was sort of like kind of dying. I mean, it's still around, but it was getting small. You know, it was down to like, you know, a single page instead of 2 to 3 pages when I was really young. The Sunday funnies weren't as big as they used to be, but there was some good stuff. I mean, I would love to do an episode about Calvin and Hobbes by Bill Watterson. God, he's an incredible creator. There was Far Side, which still makes me laugh out loud. It's pretty evergreen stuff. And I liked a few others at the time. I remember Robot Man, which became Monty, would make me laugh. And sometimes Rose is Rose, although that got more and more stylized. I liked For Better or For Worse because it actually had characters aging in real time. And the Family Circus, I would laugh at ironically, because I was like, what are they thinking here? Like, this strip is so out of touch with what real people are. Yes, exactly correct, EJ. Like the 4-panel strips, so they'll just have 3 or 4 days on each page. You know, a little bit, but I had a friend who went to college with the creator of the Boondocks, and I'm forgetting the creator's name. And I heard some really bad stories, so I kind of avoided it because of, you know, personal stuff that I'd heard. But it's not my place to share. That would be, you know, like what, 4th hand by the time you're getting it. Well, third hand, but yeah. Lord Mantell. I really, really hope that Mandalorian and Grogu is at least fun. I really hope so. I don't know if you guys know, but this is my wedding ring. Can you see it? Not really. Can you? Let me. Can I get it to focus? Here. Let me try it and show you what my wedding ring is. I'm a nerd. All of us are nerds. Trying to get the light right. It's the Mandalorian in black diamonds. There, that's pretty good. But if the movie isn't good, I'll be getting a different wedding ring, probably. All right. What else do I have? I mean, I think this is always cool when like a creator returns to their creation. Publisher Rebellion released this ad, which shows that Judge Dredd co-creator John Wagner is returning to the character that he helped create this week. Comes out this week. In the next issue of 2000 AD, that's an anthology if you've never read it, there's going to be a story called Death of a Judge, and the ad hints it could be the last time Wagner works on the character because some of the ad copy, not in this, but elsewhere, says, in 2026, death comes to Mega City 1 as John Wagner returns to Judge Dredd for the final time? I mean, maybe just because he's getting up there in age. I don't know. Appreciate that. That is just, I love the positivity of doing this show. Thank you. Thank you very much. The precious. Yes, my ring is my precious. Yep, Mike Perkins too. Thank you both for the super chats. That's very kind of you. So the solicitation copy says that Judge Dredd is targeted by a mysterious assailant in Judge of Adreth. And Judge of Adreth. Maybe I should slow down. Nah. Mike Perkins on art. That's cool. Wagner co-created Judge Dredd, if you don't know, all the way back in 1976. 50 years ago now. 50 years. With artist, of course, Carlos Ezquerra and writer-editor Pat Mills. Very cool. Judge Dredd is good. I haven't read all of it. Every once in a while, I think, I got to read all of Judge Dredd. But 50 years, it's a lot to read. But every time I dip in, I've always enjoyed it for what it is. You know, just a pitch black satire of America. And but it's also cool sci-fi and action. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Wagner is 76. That makes sense. I mean, he had to already, be an adult by the time he was making this. That's incredible. Hold on. This looks like it's kind of small. Can I get that bigger? That's a little better. Sorry about that. All right. What else? Public domain time. Public domain. As we enter a new year, every time it hits January 1st, a bunch of stuff enters the public domain. Most of that isn't relevant to this show. It can be music compositions, actual sound recordings, novels, of course, film. It can be all sorts of things. But I was going to talk about some of the stuff as it basically relates to comics and animation. Not as much this year as some of the other years. You know, it isn't like a Popeye or Winnie the Pooh type year, but it more and more is coming in that we recognize. Betty Boop's first appearance in 1930 in Dizzy Dishes. That is now public domain. Although she was drawn as a dog back then. She had like these big jowls and like her ears were like, I don't know, sort of something you'd see on, I don't know what kind of, Gene, are you still in here? What kind of a dog would have ears that just like hang low, like Snoopy or something? Yeah, Nancy Drew entered the public domain. I don't think she's really been in comics much. Funny thing about Betty Boop is you can look it up, and some of the later animations were actually never properly copyrighted again. So like some of her later stuff is technically in the public domain already, although the current owners of the property would fight you on that. Yeah, like a basset hound almost. She's got like, I don't know what she is. They didn't make it very explicit. Yeah, like a beagle or a basset hound or something like that. But I'm just putting that out there because, you know, if you make your own thing, it has to be sort of, it can't be confused for the original. So like maybe lean into the fact that she's a dog person. I don't know. It includes Blondie and Dagwood, the characters Blondie and Dagwood by Chick Young, although those characters are very different from how they sort of are known now. Like Blondie is pretty put together and like, you know, assertive and stuff. But in these early comics, she's just kind of a dumb ditz. And Dagwood is like way more sort of competent and, you know, like this industrial guy coming out of the 1920s or something. So they're pretty different than what we know today. And he isn't eating his gigantic sandwiches yet. So. Rover is in the public domain, as in we know him as Mickey's dog Pluto. Well, originally that was Minnie's dog Rover. Looks the same, was called something different. So be careful on that. The first week of the Mickey Mouse comic books, comic strips from the newspaper is now public domain. 9 more of their cartoons, a bunch of Merry Melodies stuff too. I did make an episode, I think it was just last year, the beginning of last year, about the Mickey Mouse newspaper comic strips. Very interesting stuff. So you might want to look at that. Interesting that you should mention that, because I'm going to focus on something real quick, just because this is an interesting segue. I have a Patreon, obviously. It's basically my main way of making money. Not my only way. I've got a day job. I've got, the live stream. I've got YouTube ad revenue. But the main way is Patreon. People deciding, I like what you make. Here's a few bucks each month. And I've always been like, what can I give my patrons that I have time for, but like that's a bonus and sort of makes it worth it to them? And so lately I've been doing sort of an extra episode every month for patrons. And it's like essay style. And I usually let them like vote on it, but it's always been like maybe based on some of the TV or movies that are out, or the season, things like that. And I'm like, that isn't different enough. And all of a sudden I thought, well, what can you do on Patreon that you can't do here on YouTube? Stuff with too much sex and violence. All the cool indie outlaw comics that I always think about. And then I'm like, no, I'll never be able to monetize that though. It's like a real world concern. I was like, oh, well, I'll just start doing episodes on Patreon about that. So, if it's going to be about like Johnny Ryan, like super offensive, like, comic strips, or if it's going to be about Cherry, as in Cherry Pop-Tart, or Omaha the Cat Dancer, erotic comics that are still like, pretty important to the industry. Maybe even some stuff by guys like Crumb. I don't know. I'm going to start doing like that as my exclusive episode. Like the Too Hot for YouTube stuff is going to go to Patreon. I'll do one a month, and maybe that'll like help make people get into it. No, probably not. There's a bunch of stuff that I've kept exclusive to Patreon, because the idea is it's more of an essay. So it doesn't always have lots of images, or at least not like transitions and crops and stuff like that. I might have a page and I'm talking about it, and I just don't have the time to like re-edit that into something that YouTube could take. But yeah, Tijuana Bibles I might still be able to do as a YouTube episode someday. I don't know. Oh, that's so nice to hear. Thank you. I really appreciate the support. It means a lot to me. So I do have books about Tijuana Bibles. That's something I've meant to do for a couple of years, but I've also been like, how do I do this without getting like, demonetized? Yeah, exactly. I could do stuff about like Milo Manara or stuff like that from heavy metal that like you can't really easily just show everything. Verotic. There's so many interesting comics that I could, and I wouldn't be able to like just, I do it one of two ways. I do an essay with a few images, or I might like sit down here where I've got like, the camera that can aim down, and I just go page by page and talk about the history and the context. It would still be an essay, but you'd get to see the images that like YouTube would never put ads on. Anyway, just letting you guys know that is something I'm going to start doing this month. I asked my patrons, and by far they said like, yes, that's a cool idea. That's something different. Something that you can't get elsewhere, or can't do elsewhere and monetize. All right, I'll go back to the news, but I just wanted to talk about that since somebody mentioned Tijuana Bibles. What else is in the public domain? Oh, just some important notes. Like, if you don't know about public domain rules and you're excited to like use some of the stuff, read up on it, because beyond something being copyrighted or public domain, there are still things like trademarks, and you can only use what's in the public domain, not the ideas that came later. So, it's not all available, not all of it. Also, just know that companies have active trademarks to specific interpretations. So what you need to do beyond having it, be specifically based on only the ideas up to a certain point, you also have to make sure that it cannot be confused for something that's coming out from the current rights holder. That's the biggest thing. So like, if Superman is in the public domain and I want to do a Superman story, I couldn't put Superman with that logo on the cover. I'd probably have to call it something else. I'd probably have to call it like a term that they don't even have like registered. Like I couldn't call it the Man of Tomorrow, the Man of Steel or something, because they've got registrations and trademarks on those phrases. So anyway, just something to think about. Yeah, Wicked is an example of where they've taken the ideas from Frank Albaum and really transformed them, whether you like it or not, focusing on different characters, recontextualizing it through making it a musical. Those are very big changes. So it's pretty important. Chuck, I'm surprised that there wasn't one announced like in November or December, because that's the first thing they always do. And I'm like, I don't care about a Winnie the Pooh or a Popeye horror movie. Yeah, Dan O'Neill tried to do Air Pirate funnies and got in a little bit of trouble. Let's talk about the biggest selling comics of the year. There are 9 in the info that I can get. I'll explain. They're right here, and I'm going to talk about it in context. But this data comes, first of all, I want to just qualify it, comes from Comic Hub. If you don't know, Comic Hub is a point-of-sale system, as in it records the sales, but only from a sample size that ranges between 120 to 150 comic shops in the U.S. There's a lot more than 150. So it's a sample. It's meant to be indicative of the biggest trends, but it isn't like an absolute accounting for the sheer number of comics. See, that means we don't have actual sales numbers. We have sales proportionate to one another. So if we say that the thing that was ordered the most from this information was Marvel's Deadpool Batman, that's assigned sort of a ranking of 100. And then proportionate to that are the rest of the books as to like what they sold compared to that. So like that way, whether Deadpool Batman is 150,000 copies or 400,000 copies, it always represents 100. And then, if Battle Beast sells 75,000, you compare it to that, whether it's 150,000 or 400,000. Don't worry too much about it. Anyway, Bleeding Cool put the info together. They made the graphic. I just wanted to give them credit because they the Comic Hub info is stuff we could all gather, but it's not fun, and Bleeding Cool did it. What I think is interesting when you just glance at this, look at how much Batman there is, and look at how much Blind Bag stuff there is. Just amazing. So the best-selling book was Marvel's, but it was Deadpool Batman, wasn't it? And then if we compare that to the version DC did, they sold basically 3/4 of what Marvel sold. And I think some of that is the market confusion because those look very similar. They should have honestly at least thought of a different color scheme for the second one or the first one, whatever. That is a very similar color scheme. So I understand the confusion there. Plus, if we look at the prices, which is the second to last column, Marvel's is $6.99, DC's is $7.99. A buck makes a difference, especially as you approach that $10 line. But yeah, exactly right. Good observation. The only Marvel book is a DC crossover. Last year, a lot of Absolute books in with a lot of DC Ultimate books. But this year, yeah, Marvel's only showing in the top 9 is a crossover book with DC. DC is doing very well at the best sells. Marvel still outsells them because they've got that whole middle chunk. They do so many more books. The Batman relaunch by Fraction and Jimenez also sold insanely well. And if we compare that, for instance, to Batman Hush 2, it is in there, right? That's number 6. But look at those percentages, like 90 versus 49. Like there's a big drop off at that basically between DCKO and then these second 4. That said, it's still impressive to see things like Absolute Batman number 15 and Absolute Batman number 5, just sort of random issues later in the run show up. I think the thing that impresses me the most overall, though, is probably the fact that Battle Beast is here as the number 4 best-selling comic, because that's the first and only creator-owned book in this. It's also the first issue. Like, yes, he's a spin-off character, but, you know, he's never had his own title before. That is being sold on the popularity of Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley. It also benefits from being the first blind bag. Keep in mind, blind bag's very popular now, but this was the first one, and that proved how it could work. Nobody knew. Like, that was a gamble. It could have fallen completely on its face. People might have just outright rejected it as the first one. Batman is pulling a lot of weight here. Let's count this up. Sorry, let's see. 1, 2, 3. He's in DCKO number 1. So 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 9. You're saying that Battle Beast and Flash are the only 2 books that Batman isn't in out of the top 9. What a year for Batman. What a year for Batman. I just find this a very interesting list. I'm impressed at how excited people are about Batman this far into his existence. But I think it's like when you look at each of these, they all have like the top people in the industry. Now, I do feel that like Batman Hush 2 totally fell apart and is not a good story. But I didn't dislike the artwork by Jim Lee. I really didn't. In fact, the flashback sequences in it, I thought showed real effort and promise. People like blind bags and Batman this year. We'll see. It'll be interesting if we can sort of remember this snapshot in time, what we'll see next year. Because last year it was all about Absolute and Ultimate. Absolute and Ultimate, like the relaunches. And I think that if I'm remembering right, Ninja Turtles and Transformers were in there, which were also sort of rebooted 80s and 90s stuff. I'm sure that if we went down like to a top 20, that Flash and Wonder Woman and Superman would start showing up. But yeah, it's you want a year of amalgam. Jim Lee might make it. I might even have some Jim Lee news. So I'll continue, but I thought that this was pretty interesting. It's also a little disappointing that some of that stuff that was popular last year, like, you know, Transformers or Ninja Turtles, doesn't quite fit in here just because there's so much Batman. I really wouldn't feel bad about Batman being pushed out. But at least there is, in the top 5 even, one creator-owned title. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. All right, what else is on? Oh, I've got some DC Next Level news. DC informed retailers that Lobo #1, that's the new book that Scotty Young is writing, Jorge Corona is drawing. It's going to be pushed back 2 weeks from the original March 4th release to March 18th. 2 weeks. However, I did think that was interesting because DC didn't give a reason for it. And I think that if there was like a delay with like the art or something, I think we'd have heard about it. And honestly, they've had so much of a lead up that I don't think that that's likely. I don't think that Scotty or Jorge are behind. I think the most likely thing is there's been so much excitement over this specific title. I bet DC intentionally pushed it back, especially since it's #1. It's not really late if it hasn't come out yet, so that retailers have more time to do pre-orders. That's my best guess. I sincerely expect Lobo to have some pretty damn good numbers. I think it just looks fun and cool. There's some other stuff though. Scott Snyder mentioned on his Substack newsletter that DC is going to do a Jonah Hex title. This is just a representative image that I liked by Richard Corbin. Not an actual cover. They haven't announced who's doing that yet. But we do know that Joshua Williamson is going to write a Legion of Superheroes book. He's currently writing a Superman title, and he's going to bring back Legion of Superheroes. It is interesting that DC hasn't been able to make Legion of Superheroes popular for this long, because I think you have to go back to the 90s, the last time Legion of Superheroes had a good-sized fan base. They've tried to bring it back since then, I think by Bendis briefly, and I think by possibly Abnett and Lanning, the guys that did Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that all of those guys tried to bring it back, and it just never really took off. Oh, that's interesting. First appearance of Lobo. Yeah. I won't be surprised if they get Beasley in to do a variant cover at some point. Beasley still does plenty of conventions and covers and stuff like that. So I bet he'd be up for that. But I think that, this is designed to be an ongoing monthly, and that Beasley does smaller runs at this point and covers. What DC was looking for was who's a creator or a creative team that wants to keep going, do it on a monthly basis and has a different idea. And I like that. I like that a lot. Jonah Hex has so much potential. It's wild to me. Jonah Hex is a Confederate soldier. To put him in the sort of heroic role, he's such a conflicted character. He's very interesting. Very interesting. Well, Snyder and Williamson work together overseeing the All-In initiative, which included Absolute and now Next Level. So they sort of are editors. Yeah, they don't have that official title, but they have been acknowledged as the people overseeing it. So they really are the editor-in-chiefs of sort of a sub-brand within DC. So, yeah. Mark Waid's early 2000s Legion of Superheroes and Legion Lost. I think that was probably, was it early 2000s that he did that? I guess that was a while back, but that was still it had a fan base. I only vaguely remember them having an animated series, only vaguely. I know. Oh, I know. I'm very aware of how he's conflicted and that he has ditched out on his duties, but he did serve, and it's interesting. What else we got? Just a quick update, since I was talking to something that Scott Snyder said. He also was interviewed on the Popverse this week, and he talked a little bit about Wytches. That's the animated adaptation coming out on Amazon Prime based on the horror book him and Jock made. You got to really look at this closely, and any sort of knot or shadow in the trees has an eyeball looking at you, because the monsters, I'll call them, from Wytches are unlike traditional, pointy hat, cast a spell, cauldron, very strange monsters. I really do recommend this book. Anyway, Snyder said he's going to be able to talk about it a lot more soon, because the whole first season is written, it's had its animatics, and it's now being animated by a studio he named called Powerhouse. I think that they might be based out of Texas. I'm pretty sure that's an American animation studio, but don't quote me on that much. That's just what I think. But regarding the look of the show, because Jock is such a singular artist. Snyder made me feel good about this, because I hadn't heard about what the look would be, but he said Jock is one of the art directors on the show, and they're really animating his work the same way they did Ryan Ottley's in Invincible. It feels like him. It's painterly, And even the splatter effect is there. It's like the comic book come to life. And I'm so deeply proud of it. I can't wait for people to see it. I definitely think that these days with an animated show, having a distinct visual look is so important. I think it really helped things like the Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem or the Spider-Verse movies. So lean into the fact that you've got Jock there. Lean into making that art style look different. Did Powerhouse work on Castlevania? I don't know. I lean towards thinking you're right. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know that one. New art. This is why Batman Hush 2 won't come out, is Jim Lee's always drawing something else. But I thought this is a nice story. Let me share this with you. So Jim Lee dropped by a drink and draw event in Seoul, South Korea this past week. He drew the Batman sketch that you see here, and that's going to be auctioned for money to some South Korean charity. And this was hosted by, or at least patronized by Bob Layton. And Layton ended up drawing Jim Lee's character, Spartan. I'll show you that later. So every Thursday at Dice Comics and Cafe in Seoul, that's an English-speaking comic book, gaming, and coffee place, they've got a drink and draw get-together. And local resident Bob Layton, he retired to South Korea, he patronizes it. Layton, if you don't know, you might know though. He's really well known for co-writing and inking Iron Man. Also, he co-founded Valiant Comics, the original version of Valiant Comics. You know, David Lapham, Jim Shooter, Barry Windsor Smith, some really great artists. Anyway, Layton posted to social media. That's how I know about all this, that Jim Lee dropped in. Here's one of Bob Layton's quotes. Last night was an unprecedented event as the president of DC Comics, Jim Lee, made an exclusive appearance at, what is it called again? Dice Comics and Cafe here in South Korea for a very special edition of Drink and Draw. With standing room only, the number one artist in the business was a total pro as he signed books for everyone in attendance and even drew a Batman to donate to our charity drive. Yep, that was his era. Also Armor Wars. Layton also posted a pretty entertaining story about how in the 90s, when Jim Lee was the biggest guy in comics and he was doing Image, how did they get him to do that wraparound cover for a Valiant cover? Because he did a cover for Hardcore #1. That was one of Bob Layton's books. He co-plotted it. He inked it. Hardcore. So it turns out Jim Lee wanted tickets to a sold-out U2 concert, and one of the people behind Valiant was the publisher, Steve Mazarski. Mazarski was also an entertainment lawyer in the music business, so they just did an even trade. Jim got tickets to the U2 concert, and he illustrated a cover for Valiant. I think that that's pretty funny. Oh, and I was kind of impressed with this. That's Bob Layton's drawing from the same event. I thought he did a really nice job, actually, on Spartan here. I'm used to seeing his inks, and he inks in a very, how do I say, strong style. Like, it kind of overwhelms the artist when he inks. It becomes his style. But he's got some hallmarks that remind me of another artist that I really admire, Barry Windsor Smith. And I thought that this was a really nice drawing is all. So, yeah, he's still got the skills. Yeah, he's still got it. Got the goods. That's why I'm showing it. I was kind of impressed because I've seen a few sketches by him. I hadn't really seen a lot lately. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. So yeah, there's Jim Lee's drawing and Bob Layton's drawing. That must have been fun if you're in Seoul, South Korea, to get like, two pretty big comic legends working and drawing stuff like that. So let me talk about, this is really a follow-up on a news story I think I did back in October, where an artist, Eguchi Hisashi, was caught tracing stuff that he didn't have permission to. And it ended up like getting the advertisements that he was illustrating pulled, and a lot of apologies all around. So Hisashi Eguchi, he's best known in manga circles for Stop Hibari-kun, which was a pirate manga from Weekly Shonen Jump back in the late 70s. And since then, he's gotten into doing a lot of illustration for advertising. Anyway, this past Tuesday, he apologized for using a photograph of a woman without permission in an illustration for an advertising campaign. You can see the two here. Very similar. Eguchi said he apologizes to model Kanai Tama for using her photo as reference without asking. He also apologized to the Chuo train line because they'd hired him to draw something for an annual festival. I love how important trains are in Japan, by the way. If I moved there, I would have so many model trains and be riding the trains everywhere. I love the train system in them. Anyway, he apologized for causing trouble. He then defended himself. He posted 3 pages. This much takes up about like the first third of the first 3 pages. And then he defended himself. And in part, he said, let me briefly explain my thoughts on tracing here. Tracing is a legitimate step in drawing. And it is not a one-sided idea, tracing equals plagiarism, which is bad, or all tracing equals tracing is plagiarism. In my case, I think of it as the very first stage of the rough draft. I get what he's saying there. I don't think inherently tracing is bad. I agree that it can be a layer that you're basing stuff on. But I think you should either take the pictures or use yourself as the model. It should somehow be public domain. When you use like a social media influencer or a model without asking for them, that's problematic. Especially when it's very clearly like it isn't that transformative. Like this is clearly the same person, you know? So does he put in more work and layers and stuff? I'm sure he does, but I don't think he changed things enough. It's not a pirate manga. I haven't read it. I've looked at it. I'm sorry. Well, that's the only thing is like and again, let me put this out there. This was my translation, so I may be losing nuance, okay? I may be losing nuance. I am not great at Japanese. I'm not. I read it very slowly. Some of the kanji I don't know, so I have to use a translator. So I could have gotten some of it a little wrong. I could. If the hair was different, I'm not sure anyone would know. I think you're probably right. I think if he changed the hairstyle, that this wouldn't be enough to know that it's the same person. But he kept the same hair. Like it's like, look at these gaps. So I just think he probably should have changed it a little bit more. Sample music used to be the Wild West in the 90s, and there are very strict rules to how much you can use and how you're going to have to probably pay a little bit of a license to other people when you sample now. And that doesn't make it a bad creation, but there are some pretty strong rules. I think that nose is super similar. I mean, there's a little more of a curve to Eguchi's sons, but anyway, look, I'm not trying to... Well, just to be clear, it wasn't this single image. Because I'm doing a live stream, I didn't have time to show it all. But as soon as they found that, like he had a ton of stuff where it was very clearly traced from girls on Instagram. He did it for like Denny's. He did it for some makeup brands. I think you got to be a little careful on stuff like that. AI has changed what we consider the bar. Trace for study is fine. Absolutely it is. It's a fantastic way to learn form and structure sometimes. Trace and publish, not a good idea. And that's the thing. Like, I do think it's fine if you... some of the stuff that I draw here, I'm really just practicing inking techniques. I have no intention to publish this. I'm looking at photos sometimes. Like, I've got a drawing that I was going to draw tonight, of Vecna, and I'm doing a lot of the decisions on the feathering or where to put the shadows and stuff like that. I am making decisions, but did I look at a photo to get him right? I did, but I probably wouldn't if I was publishing it. I'd probably do this, and then I'd redo it based on what I remember and what I learned. So it depends on how you're using it. I think it's a nuanced conversation. I do. I don't think it is inherently bad to use it as a starting point. I really don't. But I think you need to be careful that you're transformative or that you own the image. And I think that there is a difference, like EJ said, between drawing for yourself and learning and publishing it for like a paid client. You literally don't have the rights to a model's professional images. So you can get in a lot of trouble. I think trace and publish is fine if it's yours. Yeah, if it's yours. Y'all would be astounded how much is traced in all the media you consume, from comics to trading cards to concept art. It's not an inherently bad step. It struck me as a very defensive apology is all. Anyway, I thought it was just interesting because this happened this week, and Eguchi-san is a very well-respected mangaka and illustrator. I will say that whatever I'm saying here, imagine it being like 1,000 times more heated in Japan. They take it so much more seriously than what I'm saying. Like, they just aren't okay with it. And what's strange to me about that is they have assistants take photos and trace backgrounds in manga all the time, like super realistic tracings of buildings and cars and stuff. And they'll even make it as sometimes screen tones. So that, but you do it on like your main characters, or you do it off of like a photo. One of my favorite artists in manga or in comics is Takehiko Inoue. Inoue has done stuff like Vagabond and Slam Dunk. And he got a lot of heat in the 90s that people were saying that he was tracing things from Sports Illustrated for like of Michael Jordan and stuff like that. And I think it ultimately came down to he was looking at it but not tracing it. But people were like ready to condemn him. And I think that that's too harsh, because Inoue is just a brilliant, brilliant artist. And I don't think you can look at those characters and think that that's Michael Jordan or anything. It's just totally different people. I've seen that. Asano Inoue, because I think he was on Naoki Urasawa's show Manben and showing his techniques for replicating a background. And it was so time consuming how many lines he was putting down. It was almost like, well, why don't you just use a Photoshop filter? But that wasn't his process. Yeah, he used photos, references, but I don't think it necessarily was a full trace. I don't know. It was Urasawa's birthday this week. He's amazing. All right, moving forward. This is just a silly little thing. This is real. Vanilla Ice performed at Trump's New Year's Eve party. I'm sure it was definitely like, the first musician that our president was like, I gotta have him. He's got a single hit from 35 years ago. That's who I want hosting my party. He hosted it alongside a guy in a Ninja Turtle suit. And guess what he's saying? If you guessed his only song, then you guessed right. I also am amused that Vanilla Ice only hires one turtle, not four. He also performed this very same party in 2023. So news outlets, here's why I'm posting about it. News outlets were posting images where the turtle looked rough, okay? This is fine. But I was seeing like the news about this, and I'm going like, why does that Ninja Turtle look not right to me? It's because the images that are being posted on tons of news sites are actually from a parody account. But no one seems to get that it's a joke because it's so believable. Let me show you. So here's like an example of some of the news. And I'm looking at this like, and I'm going, that just looks crazy to me. But I kept seeing this image, this specific image. And I'm like, why are we not seeing it from different angles? You know, Vanilla Ice was performing all night, right? Here's where they're getting it from. Gary Peterson USA is a parody account that pretends to love Trump, but he says dumb things. He goes, there's nothing better than watching the godfather of rap, Vanilla Ice Cube, ring in the new year at Mar-a-Lago with one of the actual Ninja Turtle men. And this is just a fake image. The eyeballs on Michelangelo here crack me up. And it's all baggy and stuff. That's a very obvious, like, fake post, but people didn't know it. And so they're posting it as news all over the place. They're like, wow, he hired a really bad looking Ninja Turtle. Well, no, he hired a guy in a pretty good costume in real life. But I did get a kick out of this. I'm still laughing. Well, here's why he's probably not afraid. The Ninja Turtles are owned by Viacom, Paramount. Who owns Paramount? The Ellisons. Super big supporters of the president. So it's like, if this was done at a Democratic senator's New Year's party, I bet you anything Paramount would sue. But they're not gonna complain about this at all. So I just thought that was good. Michelangelo hearing about Maduro in real time. He went like this. What? Oh, it happened. It happened. This photo in this post is fake, which was used for all sorts of news stories. This is real. This one that I showed here is real. All right, moving on. Steve Rude. We're going to talk about Steve Rude. So, Nexus co-creator, I didn't know the first thing to credit Steve Rude as. He's a great artist that's done a ton of stuff, but I think he's pretty well associated with his original creation, Nexus. So anyway, he posted a Facebook this week basically saying that he needed financial help. He posted it on New Year's Eve. It was really sad. It looks like he's taken that original post down now, and I'll explain why. But he said that his lights had actually been turned off and that his wife is working up to 100 hours a week to help them with bills. That said, if you haven't, there are documentaries out there about Steve Rude and videos. He's a very talented artist, but I think he's got like issues where he can't always work well with others or something like that. Which probably has prevented him from being able to just like take regular work at Marvel or DC. But you know, that's a little bit speculation just based on some of the documentary stuff that I've seen. But I think he's probably somewhere on the spectrum after watching the videos. He's talented though, and it's sad to think that a guy this talented couldn't pay his electric bill. Like that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. He hosted a sale after announcing this on his Patreon for 20% off stuff, you know, commissions and books and stuff. And he's extended that because apparently it went well. Yesterday, he posted this really nice update. He said, or he wrote, I can't even begin to express how grateful we are. We're absolutely thrilled to report that your outpouring of generosity has helped us save the house and catch up on paying overdue wages to the paid portion of our crew. That was interesting. Who, God bless them, have been mustering on for free through everything. Their faith in this studio and my work humbles me daily. So I had no idea that he had like studio people that were actually not getting paid right now. Oh, is he bipolar? That would make a lot of sense why he might have trouble committing to he's bipolar. That makes a lot of sense. It's been a long time since I watched a video about him, so maybe they explained that and I forgot. That must make things challenging. That must make things challenging when you have your depressive periods. If that's the case, then I'm glad that he's been able to weather it and that he's here with us. That sounds like a super challenge. Wow. That's tough. Anyway, I thought I'd just mention that you can get commissions, signatures, stuff like that on his site. It's patreon.com, Steve Rude. So just thought I'd put it out there because obviously him and his wife were having some financial troubles. It takes a lot to say something like that. That nobody's proud of that or like, ooh, this is something to brag about. Poor guy. Great artist. Yeah, Nexus is split between him and writer Mike Barron. So basically, they've sort of gone their own separate ways in more recent years. They're very different people. And they're each sort of letting the other guy do whatever they want with Nexus. So Nexus, the character, sort of fractures, and there's two versions out there, but that's okay. Maybe someday I should talk about Nexus. It as a creator-owned, fairly early indie book that lasted a long time, there'd be some interesting bits of history to share with you there. Here's some more weird gossip stuff that I got. It involves Tarantino, Bendis, and Rob Liefeld. So recently, you guys probably saw, like Quentin Tarantino has been kind of shitting on certain actors in public. Like he was on Brett Ellis's podcast and said that Paul Dano was a bad actor. And I was like, you're out of your mind. Paul Dano's awesome. And he's a good comic book writer. Riddler Year One was really good. Matthew Lillard, like who wants to crap on Matt Lillard? Matt Lillard's very cool. I mean, I feel like he's got a lot of range because he can do something really goofy and funny, like this perfect Shaggy impression for Scooby-Doo. And then he can be in something like really serious, like his role in Twin Peaks: The Return, all sorts of stuff in between. I just don't get it. But anyway, Tarantino's been in the news because of saying things like that lately. Whatever, right? Whatever. Brian Michael Bendis this week was on the Word Balloon podcast, and he commented on Tarantino's recent, if you didn't know about it, he made like an animated Kill Bill chapter, Yuki's Revenge, and they used the Unreal Engine for it. So it looks like a video game. I was kind of surprised myself to see that Tarantino wanted to do it that way, but whatever. A lot of people got exposed to it because it was included in Fortnite, like a bit of it. Anyway, so Brian Michael Bendis talks about Tarantino saying, there's a lost chapter of Kill Bill that Quentin Tarantino decided to direct fully using the Fortnite animation engine to tell the story. It is one of, if not the worst things I've seen in the history of cinema. It's particularly egregious because he's talking such shit about so many people and how Scorsese hasn't made a good movie in 20 years. That's insane. And Spielberg, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes and does this Polar Express looking Fortnite sellout horse shit. I got a kick out of that. I love Tarantino's movies. I don't think he's made a bad movie. I love his movies. Sometimes I talk with my other film loving friends and it's so hard for us to like rank from top to bottom because they are all good. But this was a weird decision to make, especially after he like complains about guys like Scorsese. If you haven't seen Silence, the movie about Jesuit priests trying to bring Catholicism to Japan, That is a fantastic movie made in the last few years. Scorsese definitely still makes good movies. And I would also say that, like, Steven Spielberg, he might not make as many high-minded films, but he does make some, and I don't think Spielberg has made an outright bad movie, except maybe what was 1947 or whatever it was with Belushi. That wasn't too good, but it was just a weird criticism in my mind. But then here it goes to the next level. So Brian Michael Bendis talking about Tarantino, but here we're going to bring it all the way back to comics. Rob Liefeld reacted to Bendis's comments on Twitter, writing, "Bendis is such a piece. When he is an inch of what Quentin Tarantino is, maybe he can talk shit." And I was like, since when does Liefeld not like Bendis? He's been like saying nice things about Bendis forever. I remember him talking up Torso. I remember him saying that he absolutely loved what Bendis did when he was writing X-Men. I found this from back in 2013 where Liefeld is talking up Bendis, and Bendis jokes, "You and me, Millie the model, let's go." And Rob replied, "I just spit up my Del Taco." Funny. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened there. Very strange. Oh, geez. I am so sorry I left that comment up the whole time, folks. I didn't realize that I did that. Professional show here, a professional show. Oh, I never saw The Bridge. An addict reporter. I think that Matthew Lillard's very entertaining. Very strange is all. Rob has said a lot of nice things about Bendis, so I had no idea that he didn't like him. I was very strict. I don't get it. I'll be honest. Tarantino, the person, I find very obnoxious. Very obnoxious. But I do like his films. All of his films are good. Yeah. Let's talk about some details for Comics Giveaway Day. That's the free event happening the same week as Free Comic Book Day, but this one's organized by Penguin Random House. Got a few solicitation copies for some books that are coming out for Comics Giveaway Day that I thought sounded a little interesting. Power Rangers number 0 is apparently going to be good, something new, and that's interesting because Boom is currently ending its current run on Power Rangers, so they thought maybe that was it because there's no Power Rangers show. Hasbro hasn't been putting out a lot of toys, I guess. I don't know. And it seemed like it was maybe fading away. But apparently in 2026, there might be a new show. There's definitely going to be a new comic. And it's going to be an anthology. In one story, the Blue Power Ranger reunites the original team and they're adults. They've never done that before. They've always been teenagers. In another story, Rangers from across time and space team up. It's going to be a crossover of different shows. Fun if you're a fan. And in the third, there's a Last Ranger in the far future. Could be interesting. Another one. This one is one I'll definitely get. Road to Slaughter is going to begin a new story arc for Erica Slaughter from Something is Killing the Children. And the solicit copy interested me. It said, the world at large believes Erica Slaughter to be dead. In her absence, her greatest adversary is enacting plans to take over the House of Slaughter, and the Order of St. George has its own designs to fill the power vacuum. Cool. Something a little different than just seeing flashbacks or the same monsters. I think that sounds cool. This one looks good to me, but I like history comics. 10-Speed Graphics is offering a portion of The British Are Coming, and that adapts the first half of the New York Times best-selling The British Are Coming, the opening volume, in Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Rick Atkinson's extraordinary trilogy about the American Revolution. So this goes into deep detail on the battles and the people that were involved in the American Revolution. That's an interesting bit of history that I feel like a comic book could make feel much more real to me than just reading text in a classroom. and this could be cool. Conan, the Conan free issue is going to reintroduce Thulsa Doom, and he's arguably Conan's most notable enemy. He's like this tyrant sorcerer king from Atlantis. In the Schwarzenegger movie, they kind of merge him with some other characters. The James Earl Jones Thulsa Doom isn't really like what was in the novels or the comics. It's always the first Saturday of May. I'd have to look at a calendar to know for sure, but the first Saturday. So anyway, those were just a few that sounded interesting to me. Got a bunch of different distribution items, 4 different distributors that I want to talk about. First of all, oops, hold on. Hey, Chris, Happy New Year. Hope life has been great for you. How is your shoulder feeling? A lot better, a lot better. I can definitely like raise my arms straight. I've got good flexibility there. See how I can like do this like backwards? I can't quite get this one up and like at a right angle. Like I can get this at a right angle. I can't quite do that. That hurts. But it's much more flexible. I can raise it. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Thank you very much. Hope the rest of the family is doing great as well. We're surviving. We're surviving. Thank you for the support. That's really, really kind of you. All right. So I don't know how many people even know about Inky Pen, but they declared bankruptcy. They were a digital comic service, though. They provided books from a bunch of publishers that you know: Valiant, Dynamite, IDW, Titan, Humanoids, Archie, Dark Horse, tons more. They were available on things like Steam and Nintendo Switch, so that you could like read it through like a streaming game interface, but you could like read digital comics. They declared bankruptcy. They're going out of business. I never really heard about them, to be honest. This one made me a lot more sad. I don't expect many people to know this, but Baker and Taylor closed, or they're in the process of shutting down. And they have a lot of history. They're a distributor of books and comics to libraries. They do other stuff too, but primarily they got comics to libraries. Indie, mainstream, they handled all of that. They were the distributor for that stuff. They have a history as an organization dating back to the 1800s. Really storied company. In the modern day, haven't necessarily been able to easily keep up. Their niche was distributing to libraries. And they got bought and sold a few times. But anyway, there is a competitor out there. I forget its name off the top of my head. There is a competitor that handles getting comics to libraries, but it wasn't as big. Maybe it'll get bigger. In an article on the Comics Journal this week, there were several librarians quoted that were saying that without Baker and Taylor, it's going to take them longer to get the books into libraries because they don't have the same streamlined ordering system. In fact, a bunch of them were even saying that they might be ordering it through like Amazon to get it to them faster. But if you could do it through Baker and Taylor, you could get it at a discount, and it's always the responsibility of a library to spend its, taxpayer funds in a smart way. So yeah, that was a little disappointing to hear that Baker and Taylor is going out of business, because I do admire getting to read comics at a library. I think it's cool. I didn't hear anything about that. A Rocketeer comic that will feature Popeye and Tintin. Didn't hear anything about it. Is that Mad Cave? I don't know. Diamond Comics announced this week that they teamed up with Enesco, although that's not that exciting because they're both owned by Sparkle Pop Ad Populum. Enesco specializes in like home decor and collectibles, and together I guess they're going to form Diamond Select Brands. To me, that says getting collectibles into stores. So comic book related merchandise, but not really comics. And finally, Christine Merkler. She's the co-owner of Lunar Distribution, and I forget what DCBS stands for, but it's like Discount Comic Book Service, something like that. she spoke with the Off Panel podcast this week and explained that while Lunar was the first to begin shipping comics in bubble wrap, like they were credited with doing really well for not damaging books, they actually are moving to a new partner that makes, she claims, better boxes, and they won't need the bubble wrap. But that will be new, and we'll have to follow along to make sure that keep them honest. Oh, that's cool to see this. Library is how I read most of my comics now. That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't think that they ever individually wrap the comics, to be honest. Like the boxes I saw, it was like a box with like big bubble wrap and then the stack of comics, and it just sort of helped protect it from like being shuffled around, banging into each other. What else do I have? Last thing is just an upcoming indie thing that looked a little interesting to me. I say upcoming. Actually, it's got 7 days left on Kickstarter. 4-color comics history trading cards. So basically, a little trading card set that tells you the history of public domain characters that were published back in the Golden Age, specifically focused this time on Black Terror and the original Daredevil. That's by Lev Gleason, not by Marvel. It's $20 for a 24-card pack, and then there are slightly higher levels that have things like glow-in-the-dark cards and cards about like Phantomob by Fletcher Hanks, Stardust the Super Wizard. So I've got like a little link there you could type in, and I just thought that looked pretty cool. Can I copy that? Maybe. I'll put it in the chat. Let me grab that, and I'll put it in chat. And yeah, I guess that's everything I got for the news. So there are a bunch of comics, not that many actually. It was a smaller week, but there's a few things that I want to talk about for reviews. So if you
Let's review.
Review it.
The review.
The reviews are in. I repeat, the reviews are in.
Go to your reviews.
What? Speaking of bad reviews.
Don't worry about that review.
Let's review all the facts.
All right, gentlemen, let's review.
Before we do, let's review.
Those reviews really came out fast.
Maybe we can review some right now?
I'm not going to review all that again.
Now let's review.
Not my worst review.
Let's review, shall we? To review.
I think I've reviewed about as much as I can.
Can anybody hear me? I don't know if I reset it or not. Yeah, I'm back, but I don't know if you can hear me. No sound? Can you hear me? Oh, you do hear me. Okay. Yeah, I must have knocked some sort of a wire free, but then on top of that, my software kept trying to pull up that microphone. So if I sound different, it's because I'm using a different microphone now, but at least I have a backup. Okay, people are joking, but you do hear me. Sorry about that. Boy, that's really frustrating as like somebody that's trying to host a live show. There we go. Okay. So you didn't hear any of my setup yet. First of all, it was a fairly light week for new comics. Now that I think of it, let me look at the calendar. Maybe it was a fifth week. Fifth weeks are always kind of light. It was the 31st. 2, 3, 4. Yep, that's what it was. So most months will have 4 Wednesdays. When there are 5 Wednesdays, a few less things come in. So anyway, all I got was 4 comics. But I also got a few other things to talk about that I'll show you in a minute. Let me start by talking about the Ultimate Universe, because 2 books came out for that. We are in the last maybe 5 months or so of this line. And both of these books happen at the same time. And just from some slightly different characters' perspectives. Like I said, I wasn't able to get a blind bag, but whatever, that's okay. I still got the story. And what is the story in this? Dennis Camp writing, art by Terry Dodson, which looks actually a little different than what I've seen before, but that's okay. A lot of characters, a lot of the Ultimates. So at this point, though, who's going to read a closing event except the people that have been reading this comic? I think it does get you up to speed with who these characters are and what their motivations are, actually. I think that this would probably work independently. It probably works a lot better if you've been reading either the Ultimates or at least Ultimate Spider-Man. Probably. But those are the only characters so far in this one. And at this point, the Ultimates have been planning for the return of this supervillain, Maker, who changed their world and prevented a lot of superheroes and actually supervillains from existing, and has been secretly having some supervillains that work for him control the world. But he's been locked away for 2 years, thanks to the work of Tony Stark's dad, Howard Stark. He caught him in a prison called the City, where time changes, or time goes much faster inside, okay? So relative to us, the Maker has been trapped in there for 2,000 years. If you don't know, the Maker is an evil version of Reed Richards, who actually was the Reed Richards from the original Ultimate Comics. You don't need to know any of that necessarily, but the Maker is a genius. And he's got the stretchy powers of Mr. Fantastic, but he's evil, man. He wants to control everything. It's a very different take, but we've been conditioned to think of Reed Richards as the smartest guy in the universe. Well, imagine that in the hands of somebody that was evil, and he's not Doctor Doom that has sort of a sense of honor or anything like that. He's pretty evil. So anyway, they always knew that they had a 2-year ticking clock. He was going to come out one day, and they're trying to be ready for it. So the Ultimates has had all their different team members do assaults on like supervillains and institutional, like, police and military throughout the world. They're trying to free the world while a small group of the superheroes go up against to get ready for the Maker to come out of the city in Latveria. That's this globe thing here. We've got Spider-Man, Iron Lad, who's Tony Stark, Miss America, she's cosmically powerful, and this universe's version of Reed Richards, who calls himself Doom. The rest of his family was killed, and the Maker tortured him for a long, long time. So while the Ultimates are sort of battling all these, bad guys and everything, this team of 4 is getting ready to confront the Maker. And things don't go like what they're expecting at all. They're thinking that the Maker will pop out of there, ready to fight, maybe have armies, have technology they can't think of. Instead, the bubble that controls him blinks slightly bigger for a second and traps those 4 heroes in it. Very strange. And things are going bad for the Ultimates in the real world, which is kind of what this one's about. This is about how there's this unknowable future world, the city. And this is some interesting sci-fi ideas. That's what makes this comic fun, folks. At the heart of the city, there's this gigantic tree. Everything is industrial and grimy. The air is poison. It's just terrible. And do the heroes get attacked by the Maker's minions? Yes, they do. But what they get saved by, I never saw this coming. A version of Death's Head. If you don't know, Death's Head is just the coolest weird character in Marvel. It's actually a Marvel UK creation, and he was created in the pages of Transformers to be a bounty hunter that went after the Transformers. But because the creators at Marvel UK owned him, they also had him hunt down the Doctor from Doctor Who when Marvel had the license to Doctor Who. And then he's been, in crossovers in mainstream Marvel comics. So this, not this specific version, but a version of Death's Head has gone up against Transformers, Doctor Who, and, Spider-Man and Captain America and stuff. It's so crazy. This version seems to be a hero. He comes in to help the Ultimates, and it seems like this guy calls himself Immortus, but it might be, at least Tony Stark thinks, that it's his father. Could his father really be alive 2,000 years later? I mean, he is supposed to be a technological genius, so maybe he's a little out of his mind. It's some really interesting stuff, but the big question is where is the Maker himself? I really would love to show you, but it would be a huge spoiler, okay? It would be a huge spoiler. Let's just say, though, that the Maker has become something different and unknowable, and it is bonkers, and it is some of the coolest sci-fi, and he seems like he's possibly made himself a big threat, but in a very different way than you would expect. He's not just a guy with new hyper lasers and force fields. Interesting. There could be some time travel stuff going on. It's really hard to know for sure. They're playing with the ideas of what we know, and I think ultimately those all sort of prove to be red herrings, because Dennis Camp has always played very fair with anything he introduces, whatever it's called. We get to know that character from the beginning, and we get to know their motivations. So, Tony Stark calling himself Iron Lad, there are implications that he could become the evil future, Kang the Conqueror or something. But actually, none of that has ever happened in the books. So that's just sort of messing with us in a way. Anyway, I did too. I loved Walt Simonson's somewhat brief Fantastic Four run, but he did some really cool time travel stuff, including with Death's Head. He has one great issue, Walt Simonson does, of Fantastic Four, where Dr. Doom and Reed Richards are battling each other across time. and the pages are told in non-chronological order. And it's like, there's basically like what's happening for the main cast and what's happening for Doctor Doom and Reed. And so like we're following what's happening for the main cast, but like Doctor Doom and Reed keep popping up and they would be in a different page order. That was really creative, actually. Anyway. Yeah, there's always a possibility that is a future version of Tony and that he is sort of this universe's version of Kang, not necessarily evil, but just like it becomes a time travel of some sort. But I don't know. It was really fun to read both of these together. Between them, while this was kind of fun and had interesting ideas, this was the superior issue of a comic. Issue 19 continues to do what the Ultimates does, which is, even though there's an expansive cast, basically each issue focuses on 1 to 2 people and their perspective. And you might have some guest stars. Sometimes you definitely have big fights and stuff. This one focuses specifically on Wasp. And we've been led to believe that Wasp is going to be a traitor to the Ultimates, that she's working with Nick Fury, and Nick Fury, we know for a fact, works for the Maker. So, yeah, it's weird. But here she is, still like, ostensibly being a member of the Ultimates, and they're battling actually Asgardian trolls and ogres and all this stuff. But what it's really about is her relationship with Hank Pym, Ant-Man. She's this girl that says, she was a debutante. She liked designing fashion, just like the Janet Van Dyne we know, and didn't want to fall in love and get distracted from having her own career and everything. But eventually she meets Hank Pym, this really smart, unique guy, and she can't help it. She does fall in love with him. And then, Hank Pym was destined to become Ant-Man. Well, the Maker went back in time and caused every superhero to either be killed or not get access to their powers. For Hank Pym, he was probably supposed to be killed in a car accident. He survives the car accident, but he has severe brain damage. He can no longer concentrate for very long on big ideas. And Janet Van Dyne stays with him. To her credit, she's like, this guy has been reset. So it's almost like, and they're young. They're not married yet. She could have walked away. They don't have their shared history anymore. That's very sad to think of. Like if you're in a serious relationship or you've been in one, and you think of having one half of you forget everything you did together, and you had to start from scratch. What an intimidating idea. But he still sort of wins her over because he's here in the hospital bed and he sees her sad and stuff. And his first thought is he still has his emotions, his core personality, even if he doesn't have his intelligence. And he asks if she is okay. And she's like, what can I say? Like, I still loved him. Yeah, Dan to Dan is doing a little something like that. It's really cool. It's a little beautiful. And so she gets cut off from her money because she decides to stay with Hank. And they're like young, like early 20-somethings. And they start just a pesticide, not pesticide. What's it called when you're exterminator business? It's a simple life. They work hard, but they've got each other. They don't have their powers or anything until the Ultimates are like, hey, you were supposed to have your powers and everything. And we find out some other stuff about how she was, being trained by Nick Fury and his people before she got those powers. I guess it was sort of a long-term backup plan maybe by the Maker. What's interesting is that it seems to be setting up information. We saw that Janet was reporting to Nick Fury. So we thought, hey, there is a ticking clock of a traitor in the Ultimates. With these little bits of flashbacks, we see, well, Janet is a kind person. And maybe she didn't necessarily know what Nick Fury was or what his plans were. maybe she's not the traitor we thought. And in fact, there's some really cool twists that happen with another character that in the comics, basically Hank Pym created. And in these comics, they use some different bits of history. I don't want to give it away, actually. I don't want to give it away. It's really, really cool. It's really cool. And I'm now hoping that she is not a traitor because she's a good person in a lot of ways. You were married for 19 years. Your wife should have left, but she stayed. It's a very relatable human story that's taking place within, honestly, still some pretty damn fun action scenes. So this is a great mix of over-the-top superhero action and that sort of melodrama that serialized superhero comics do. And it blends it very well. It keeps a very tight focus on Janet, even though Hank is a super important aspect to this story. It's about Janet, and it made me really like her. It made me really like her because she does make some sacrifices, and she's very ambitious. She's very ambitious, but I also believed in their relationship. And that was impressive to me, that they could make me believe that she would be in love with this guy who was never going to be this world-changing super scientist anymore. He just couldn't be anymore. It's really quite good, folks. Works well as a standalone, works well as it's sort of built up to this with several background elements. Yeah, I'm curious too what they're sort of going to fill this hole with, because they really do need some sort of a big thing. I kind of admire that Ultimates never expanded beyond about 5 books. I kind of admire that, like, because it was like a huge seller and they could have expanded this a lot more. Anyway, Dennis Camp and Juan Frigeri gave us a fantastic issue. There were 2 other books that I read this week that I want to talk about, and I won't talk as long about Feral, but boy, do I find this book cool. It is epic horror. Basically, this is a bunch of cats that have taken over a pet store, but they're running out of food, and the people that the cats that used to run it were killing kittens regularly so that everybody had wet food. And now there's like this new group with Lucky, the tabby cat from Outdoors, has sort of taken over, but he's a bully and he's telling like his up to now we've thought of them as his friends, the main characters. He's telling them like, you have to eat this stuff. We're going to keep eating. And it's like, no, we don't want to. Hey, let's see. Someone seriously needs to reprint those 80s Johnny Quest comics by William Messner Loebs, please, published by Kamiko. Yeah, didn't Steve Root even illustrate some of those, I think? I don't know who would have the rights to all of that now. Like, because you might have the rights to do new Johnny Quest stuff, but I don't know if that entitles you to have the rights to republish the old stuff. If it does, who's doing Johnny Quest right now? I think it's Dynamite. I wonder if Dynamite has the rights to reprint the Kamiko stuff. Because you're probably right that would that was some of the best. I know that fans loved it, and I know that William Messner Loebs could use the help. He's fallen onto tough financial times in the last couple decades. Oh, that's interesting. I really don't like this book. I love it. I love it. Steve Root and Andy Kubert. Yes. I saw that in my feed that Strange Breaking Parts did a history of Kamiko. I still might do one myself at some point, but I'll wait. Anyway, oh my God, what a disturbing story. And this also does a good job of balancing 2 things. There's an ongoing threat where one of the infected is actually in the pet store, like killing some cats, like quietly. And nobody notices that because they're all having interpersonal conflicts and drama. And, so our main character out of this whole group of cats, I would argue, is Elsie. And Elsie is arguing, like, look, this is just not a good place. We've got to go outside. But the other people, I keep calling them people, they feel like real characters. They're like, no, as bad as this is, it's not safe outside. I cannot go back outside. And Elsie's determined to leave. Lucky does not want her to leave. The rest of her friends are ready for her to go. It's setting up some really cool stuff too. This whole arc of them being stuck in this pet store. I thought the pet store was going to be this moment of respite and quiet and safety for them. And instead, it's like the most disturbing arc yet. You're like, no, the outside world was better, because at least then it's just sort of monsters that are after you, as compared to like not being able to trust rational, like, other beings. It's crazy to me. Yeah, I could see that. I've started thinking of Feral as a horror version of Watership Down, or we're about to get this as a movie, The Odyssey, Homer's The Odyssey, because it's mostly about all these challenges that a band of characters have to face to find a new safe home. And I think eventually they're going to probably go back to where they started, just with more knowledge and abilities. The humans don't seem to be infected in this world. However, it does seem like society has fallen into quite a bit of disrepair. We see every once in a while people in full like bodysuits, CDC people going out trying to euthanize animals. So I think it can spread, but we haven't seen from that perspective exactly what happens. All we know is that a lot of the houses and buildings are empty now. And we only get glimpses of humanity. Well, I don't know what animal they should do next, but supposedly in issue 21, it's going to start crossing over with their previous book, Stray Dogs, which explicitly was not set in a post-apocalyptic, rabies as zombies type world. Giraffe. The cat lady, I remember, fell down the stairs. What, did she get sick? I can't remember exactly. I think she got sick. But I don't think they get sick quite the same way. Let me talk about this last new comic that I got this week, which is Escape. Rick Remender writing, Daniel Acuna on art. It is a World War II allegory. It's not explicitly World War II, but it's very much, the main hero is a bear. There's animals in this. He's a bear, very American, a pilot, and he becomes like involved in the war effort as a bomber. And he goes to something that's very much like Germany, and the bad guys are bats. But what this story does is it really makes you see everybody's perspective. Well, the bad guys are still bad guys, don't get me wrong. Although a few of them are a little more conflicted than others, but they're pretty bad. They're Nazis. But you also get to see some of the normal citizens that are trying to survive here that did not support the war effort, and in this case are hiding Milton in their home. It is so tense. This definitely reminded me in some ways of Inglourious Bastards with, what was Christoph Waltz's character? Colonel Landa, I want to say? I think it was Colonel Landa. There's a really good villain in this, asking some very pointed questions to a professor who's just trying to keep his son safe, and we know that he's hiding Milton, so if he gets found out, it's going to be bad. It's going to be so bad. Let me just say this. I've enjoyed the first 4 issues a lot. And with how rock solid the tension in issue 5 is, and how clever and believable all the dialogue is, as well as like the art is incredible. This might be my favorite Rick Remender book, which I think is saying a lot, because I've loved a lot of Rick's books. I think Gromit's was incredible this past year. But this thing is just amazing, like how tense it is. And the philosophical debates don't go on forever, but they happen, and you're like, yes, I get what you're arguing. Oh, you've got a good point too. Where do I fall on this issue? It's got me thinking, what would I do in this life and death type situation? I don't know. It's just close enough to reality that it's relatable, because we can remember that this has happened. Oh my God. And, like basically at this point, Milton, this bear, injured all alone behind enemy lines because his plane got shot down at the end of the first issue. And he's trying to sneak through this country while being hunted to blow up this big sort of like cannon or weapon. They've got like basically a super weapon. But if he does, he's probably going to kill a lot of innocent people in the city when he blows it up. So it's like, well, that's not an ideal situation, is it? At all. We're starting to meet some really sympathetic people along the way here and there. We've got really evil villains, but we've got some sympathetic people too. Everything seemed so cut and dried when it started. Milton was like the allied guy, and he, argued his case in the bomber with his best friend and co-pilot for why they were doing the right thing, that this was going to end the war and save lives. But it is that question of, does the ends justify the means? Like, what kind of collateral damage is acceptable in war? War is never easy. War is such a messy, messy thing. Yeah, Milton fully expects right now to die doing this. And he's not happy because he's got a son at home, a brand new baby son, and a wife he absolutely adores. And he has refused to write letters back to her. He doesn't know the name of his son because he can't bear the reality of knowing his son unless he safely made it home. He just can't bear it. These characters are so well developed. And the military stuff, like where Milton is like scanning out a base that he wants to sneak into, is done with such interesting technical accuracy that as I was reading this, I was like, holy shit, I want to see Rick Remender write a Sergeant Rock or G.I. Joe book. I've never thought of that before. I've always thought, sci-fi, fantasy. Folks, in a week where Marvel knocked it out of the park with some Ultimate stuff, and this issue is exceptional, and I strongly recommend it. My pick of the week for easily the best comic this week, Escape number 5. This comic is something special. This comic just makes war seem extra tragic, but it is still so exciting with such dynamic characters. I loved it. Oh yeah, there's some similarities there. Exactly. That's why I'm thinking holy crap, I think that Rick Remender might actually be a really good fit for a military book. He can't bear it. Yes, he can't bear it. Incredible. Boy, do I recommend this book if you haven't read it. Well, my recommendation is start by picking up Escape number 5, but thank you for coming. So, even though it was a small week for that, I did get a couple other things this week. Basically, 2 Christmas presents, and I finally got my Kickstarter pledge. I have not even had time to look through this, but I got my Art of Daniel Warren Johnson book, and I know a lot of people have already received it. Because the Kickstarter for this art book went so well, Dan made an extra book here where he talks about the very specific tools that he likes to use, from microns to needlepoint roller balls, brushes, parallel pens, and gives examples of like what he draws with that. Let me see if I can get this focused a little bit better. Give me a moment to adjust. Whoa. I think that's slightly sharper. This is interesting stuff to me. You know, I'm not an organized enough person to have an area where I draw, where I've got all this multimedia stuff to work with. I'm just not organized enough. I really admire how Daniel Warren Johnson and also Tyler Crook do YouTube live streams where they draw and they paint and they illustrate and they use all these different tools because they're so well organized. I can't wait to really read through all these very specific tools and how he uses them. I wonder if there's any chance. I once gave Dan a unique pen to ink with, and he thanked me by giving me a piece of original art, but I'm just curious if it shows up in here. It probably won't, because it was more of a novelty than like a day-to-day tool. No, it doesn't, but that's okay. So I haven't had time to read through this yet, but yeah, it has not only Dan's pages, but what he was going through and what he was thinking for drawing these things, what tools he used, the people that he worked with. And it gives us access to, if you're a fan, you know, the sketches and the preliminary art as well as the finished art. Oh man, I cannot wait to really get into this. And the reason Dan worked with Flesk, I had him on this channel back when in the last couple days that he was doing this Kickstarter. Flesk specifically is really good at making nice art books, and they do the scans from the original pages. So technically, this isn't just like a black and white easy scan. It's a full color photo that lets you really see the dynamic range of any marks that are on the page, which helps you, if you're into art, understand how an artist approaches things. Like in this, the published version, you would not see what's here. What's here, you can see some whiteout corrective fluid, and you can see some underdrawing, the actual pencil line art. Some of it erased, some of it not. It all gets cleaned up, you know, in Photoshop and by guys like Mike Spicer to get colored and to get like print ready. But it is interesting. It's always interesting to see the little marks and stuff and to see the decisions that an artist makes when they're creating stuff like this. Wow. Dan saying that this is the best page in the whole book for Do a Powerbomb. I get that. That's a huge moment. It's a huge moment. I can't wait to learn, but also just enjoy some fun artwork. I'm so happy that Dan has been having the career he's been having, because he really is just a creative force that I really admire. And you want to see people that do original cool stuff reach those highs. I'm pretty sure that this is Dan's parents and wife. I'm pretty sure. I didn't ask, but I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so I got that. And I also got 2 manga for my birthday that I got a little, not my birthday, I meant Christmas, and I got them kind of late. Lone Wolf and Cub, let me zoom out a little. And I have had some of the old, do I still have it somewhere? Yeah. I had the original Dark Horse tiny manga collections for Lone Wolf and Cub. It's great. It's incredible. Very important manga. Very seminal, really. About a fallen samurai, a ronin now, really, who wanders the countryside with his toddler son. What's cool about it is that there isn't a bit of ongoing story, but mostly every single issue within this tells a complete story too. He travels the Edo era Japan countryside and either gets hired or stumbles into some sort of an adventure with bandits or corrupt, samurai, and he's dealing with assassins and stuff. There's always an adventure, but there's also always a twist as to like the motivation behind someone or why they're doing something. There's always a twist to that story. It's more than just like this bad guy needs to be taken down. Okay, I'll take him down. Beautiful version, this hardcover deluxe edition by Dark Horse. I have some of their Berserk manga in this format. It's a very satisfying way to read. I can't wait to reread a bunch of this, and there might even be like somewhere around like 2/3 of the way through here I haven't read yet. It will be new to me. But look at the techniques that Goseki Kojima utilizes here. I don't feel like we get to see a whole lot of ink wash in manga anymore. We see a lot of screen tone, whether that's digital or old-fashioned. I feel like we don't, in manga, get to see lots of ink washes. We do get the occasional colored pages, but not like this. I read those tiny Lone Wolf and Cubs manga while working at Borders, then bought the movies, and wow, my copy of Deluxe en route and can't wait. I don't think that there's a bad adaptation of Lone Wolf and Cub. There have been several TV and movie adaptations of the material. The most recent TV show, not as gory because it was TV, I thought it was really rock solid, but man, some of those original movies, they are so violent, and it's awesome, though. It's awesome. I love Lone Wolf and Cub. I would love to do an episode about it, but it's a very long manga that has a lot of cultural relevance and history within manga that it's very intimidating to think of, like, what's the entry point? Like, how can I distill this to like the few points that like make it most relevant to maybe an audience who's never read it before and interest them? I'll keep thinking about it. I'll keep thinking about it. You do get like little bits of actual Japanese history and stuff mixed in because it's set in a real time period, and they go for authenticity in terms of how the government operated, how the merchants lived their lives, what the hierarchy was from everything from like a town to feudal lords and government. So you do slowly pick up on certain things just by virtue of it trying to be realistic. And even though there's some really exciting action sequences, there's also some that are so quick and brief, which always struck me as a very realistic way to present this exceptional samurai. You know, like, yeah, realistically, if a guy fought by the sword and he kept winning, it's because he could end the fights fast with like 1 or 2 cuts. I would love to make one. Some of these things take a long time. It's been a little while since I put out a new Comic Tropes. I want you guys to know, though, I have recorded and am hard at work editing. I've been editing for the last 3.5 days straight, like from morning to night, just doing nothing but editing. And I'm doing an episode about Jack Kirby, and I'm sorry, it's just taking me longer than I always expect. It seems like it takes longer. But I want to get the right images to convey a story I'm trying to tell about this man's life, about a very specific aspect. I thought that I had a lot of it done because I'd gathered over time a lot of hard to find images. But then you actually start putting an episode together and you realize you need a lot more supplemental material and you need to vary it up. And anyway, it's taking a little while to make. But I think I can have it done within a few more days. I really do. I work tomorrow at my day job. Wednesday, all I'm doing is I'm going to get my comics and meet up with Dave from West Coast Avengers. Haven't seen him in a little while. But that's only a little bit of my day. And then I think I can spend a lot editing, and I'll be close to wrapping it up. I'm positive by Sunday I can have it up. Oh, one last book that I got this week. My in-laws got this for me for Christmas. And I unwrapped it, and Chrissy unironically looked at it and said, like, wow, I like that art. Who's Brian Damage? And I looked at her thinking she was trying to make a bad joke. And then she realized, oh, brain damage. I was like, yes. Horror by Shintaro Kago, who is newer to me. I'm not as familiar. I do like horror manga. I know Shigeru Mizuki, I know Junji Ito, but I don't know all of it. And I'm very excited to explore Shintaro Kago, a contemporary horror mangaka that I've heard really good things about. It looks cool. I like the techniques. I like how gory and creepy it is. I'm very excited to check this out. I haven't read it yet. I just got this, and I haven't had lots of time. 4 stories in it, though. 4 stories. So that was pretty cool. This is a newer book. Oh, and it is translated, though, by Zach Davison. Zach Davison, who works on Ultimate X-Men with Peach, and has translated stuff by Shigeru Mizuki and Go Tanabe. Great translator, nice guy, lives locally here in Seattle, and has had me on panels at Comic-Cons, which is really, really nice. I heard about that. Yeah, Evangeline Lilly, I guess, hit her head pretty hard at the beach, and has what's it called again? Like when you've got a brain injury, like TMI or TDI. What's it called? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, she got really injured. Yeah, so I'm excited. I've got 2 big manga to reread, and read as like somebody new. And then yeah, I'm probably going to be poring over like this art book for quite a while. Look at how thick that guy is. And I'm sure it'll be available on Flesk at a certain point. But yeah, it was nice to support it on the Kickstarter and get access to the print and the little zine talking about tools. That is a zine built for me. No, haven't really been reading a whole lot of the EC stuff. Here, I'm gonna sketch a little, and we can talk about whatever. I'm gonna stop the banner now that we're at the end. Where did I put my pen? Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Oh, interesting. Well, I hope I like it. I like the art, so yeah, just sort of been playing around with lots of tiny details to draw Vecna and make him seem organic and mushy and interesting. Boy, I won't spoil anything, but I finished Stranger Things. And I instantly canceled my Netflix subscription as soon as I got to wrap it up, because I want to keep my bills down. And I would say I like the show Stranger Things. The final season, I wasn't really loving most of it. It felt like it was really treading water and felt very bloated. I think they kept way too many characters around. But I did like the final episode and the closure. So ultimately, yeah, I liked it as a show. It didn't totally drop the ball, in my opinion, at the end. I think it was not perfect, but the final episode, I liked it enough. It worked. Yeah. I've been hearing rumors that one of the two Duffer brothers that created the show, I think it's Ross, that he got divorced somewhat recently, and that his wife was a big writer on the show for the first 4 years. And people are like, speculating that maybe a lot of the best ideas were from her, the execution. And I was like, well, there might be something to that, because the ideas are all sort of still there, but the execution is kind of haphazard in the final season. Anyway, I still enjoyed it as a show overall. Kohi o namimashou. Void Rivals is pretty good. Void Rivals is pretty cool. I like the weirder G.I. Joe and Transformers stuff that they mix in. I like when it has lots of that stuff. And I like some of its own mythology too. But I really like when it uses both Cobra La and, Hot Rod and Quintessons. I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird and messy in a fun way. As somebody that got to see the Stranger Things play, I will say I was so happy that everything that I saw in it just fit in the final season. And it may have added a little, to be honest, to my enjoyment, because everything that I had learned about Henry, Vecna's history, it's a prequel, really fit well. And nothing was contradicted or anything like that, to say yeah, it added to my enjoyment quite a bit. So I was lucky, I guess. If you're in either London or New York City and you get the opportunity to see it, I think it's still in London. But the original actor that created the play role of Henry is doing it on Broadway in New York now, and I got to see him do that. Hey, thank you. Happy New Year. Henry that becomes Vecna, the bad guy. It fits so well, and it sort of explains, some of it explains a bunch, but I don't want to spoil it. The play is really fun and cool. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I've got that DC Vertigo comic, and I haven't read it yet, so I haven't seen the show yet, but I will get to it at some... Oh, wait, I just canceled Netflix. Well, I'll still get to it someday. Henry Creel. Yeah, Henry Creel. And, one of the other cool things is the character of Papa, the scientist from the first, 3 or 4 seasons of Stranger Things, played by Matthew Modine in the show. He's an important part of about the second half of the play. And that's actually played by an actor who got to play another role on the show. In season 5, he's basically the main soldier, tall, thin guy. So he actually gets to play 2 roles. Chrissy and I watched Welcome to Derry. That was really good. That was a better show, I've had. Best shows this year were, in my opinion, Pluribus and Andor season 2, but Welcome to Derry might be my 3rd favorite. Welcome to Derry was really, really cool. In some ways, arguably scarier than the movies. And I also liked how it rolled in some other Stephen King mythology and felt very appropriate. Even though it was a new story, it like rolled in it just rolled in some really good stuff from the books, and that was really unexpected, and I liked that. I liked the show quite a bit. Penguin was good. I wouldn't put it in my top 3. Could it make number 5? Maybe. I haven't heard of that one. Yeah, but what was cool was how long they held him back. Like, that they didn't feel the need to just be like, we've got Pennywise. And Chrissy and I just started watching season 2 of Fallout, which is pretty entertaining. There's no comic book shows right now, right? Oh, thank you for this. Wow. Great sketch. Happy New Year and take care. Well, thank you so much. Tatum? Is it Tatum Draws? Thank you so much. That's really kind of you. I appreciate the support a lot. Anyways, there's been some good TV this year is all. I guess that's my main point at the end of the day, is that there was some good TV. Maybe better TV than movies. Because there were a few movies that I really liked this year. Marty Supreme was just a wonderful surprise as to how good that was. But it wouldn't be super easy for me to make my top 10 list, because like as soon as I get to like about number 7, I'm sort of like, I'm choosing these because I like them, but I don't know that they'll be like all-time memorable type stuff. It'll be interesting to see what kind of stuff gets nominated for the Oscars. I'm assuming a bunch of indie stuff that I haven't heard of. You know what movie I want to see a lot is the No Other Choice, the Korean movie. I really want to see that, but no theaters near me are playing it. It's driving me absolutely nuts. Love that director's work. It looks like a really cool, interesting, funny black satire type thing that I really would love to see. But so far, no theaters near me playing it. There's a few in the city, but that would not be easy to get to for just seeing a movie. I don't know. Maybe. First, I have to finish the latest episode about Jack Kirby, and then maybe I can think about doing something fun. But then really I need to just get back to work on the next episode. I definitely am dealing with some burnout and massive, massive depression lately, and it's not healthy, but I promise I'm trying my best to take care of myself, keep busy, socialize. I'm trying. I'm not having an easy time this year. But anyway, I won't dwell on that. I'm trying my best. One battle after another. I didn't have time to see it when it was in the theater. It wasn't in the theater for all that long, though. I do have it on my. I think it's on HBO, so I have it in my queue. Yeah, I have it in my queue. I really want to see it. Beauty coming out. Yep. Favorite song? No, I think it changes too often. I think that there have been times in my life where I've had like sort of a favorite band or something, but as I get older, it's really hard for me to keep up with new music. I totally finally understand how it all of a sudden just becomes tougher to stay plugged into new stuff. I always thought it was weird how parents never seem to listen to enough new stuff. They're always listening to stuff from when they grew up, and I'm finally sort of getting it. You start really enjoying the nostalgic factor more and more at a certain point. It's weird. Oh, you know what I have done a little bit in my free time. Free time. Haven't had a lot, so I haven't played it a lot, but my sister got me some video games for Christmas, including, it's an older one, but it's new to me, Ghost of Tsushima. And yeah, it's really cool story from the bit that I've seen so far. I really enjoy it. It's a heck of a game. Fun gameplay. It's an interesting story, interesting characters, interesting history. Really, really cool. And I'm not saying anything that would surprise anyone. It's definitely like a very well regarded game, but it's new to me. It's new to me, and I really like it. K-pop Demon Hunters. Didn't you send me 2 games? You got me the Star Wars Outlaws game, and I thought you also got me the Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, I'll probably be playing that someday because I really like Ghost of Tsushima. You know, I would say I want to be hyped. I haven't really seen or heard anything that gets me all that excited. And yeah, I don't know. I'm grateful that I've gotten to see as much sort of big budget live action superhero stuff as I have, because I grew up in an era where that just was not a thing at all. And overall, I do like the MCU, but you know, I would say it's only been average for a while, or maybe above average. But not necessarily exceptional. And I think I might have been more excited about Doomsday if, one, I think it maybe would have benefited from sticking with Kang to wrap up the multiverse. I think Doctor Doom, much better character, but I think you save him. And I think it would have made more sense as a story to use Kang. Whatever, I can get over that. It's not that important to me. And I think I would have been a little more excited if this movie focused, if it didn't bother to bring back like Captain America and Robert Downey Jr. and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure I'll enjoy it for what it is. I'm sure I will. But I feel like a movie that had like Shang-Chi and She-Hulk and we'll just say like Kumail Nanjiani as Kingo from the Eternals, you know, like just a bunch of weirdos as the Avengers. Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan. You put like Kamala Khan, Captain Marvel, and Captain America together, and that's pretty damn entertaining. I feel like I could simplify this for Marvel. All you have to do is this. It doesn't have to be a big plan all the time, but do this. You put out like 6 movies with some different characters, Black Panther, Ant-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, whatever. And then you put them all together in an Avengers movie. You just keep doing that. And they go up against whoever. That's all you have to do is just keep building to that. Or not Avengers, but you know, a team up crossover movie. That's all you have to do. I don't think it should be that hard. I really don't think it should be that hard. It wasn't like they had that much connective tissue for the first Avengers. And it wasn't like Thanos had that much buildup. They had a little bit here and there. And it worked. All you have to do is just like get us familiar with a few characters, give us a movie with those characters. Nothing more than that. I feel like it doesn't have to be that hard. And you're like, okay, guess what? We got delayed. We don't have Blade right now. Okay, then guess what? Blade isn't in the next Avengers movie until you figure him out. things like that. I just don't. I don't get why they're so confused and I don't know. They're trying to do too much. I think the MCU is like they keep introducing characters, but then they're afraid to let other characters go. But it's not the same as in the comics where you can keep them all. You can't keep all these actors under contract for 20 years. And you can't have 30 people on the Avengers at once. So all you have to do is go like, okay, guess what? We're going to make, Blade, Eternals, Ms. Marvel, Captain America 4, and Thor 5. And guess what? That's who's on the Avengers this time. And you can do one or two surprises. I don't know. You have a cameo or a surprise, but I don't want or need every character that has been introduced in the same movie. I don't need that much. Give me a bunch, but don't give me that much. I don't know. Am I overthinking this? I feel like I'm thinking it through on simpler terms than what Marvel is doing. But also they need to start spending less money on any studio needs to start spending less money on their movies. What is it like? I heard something like Avatar 2 is on track to make at least $1.5 billion, and that's considered a disappointment. And I'm going, $1.5 billion isn't enough to be a massive hit? What are we doing here? The only stuff that can make money now is a horror movie. It's dumb. So yeah, I don't need every character in every movie. And you can let some retire or fade away because it's a movie, not a comic. Margins are low, but the risk is low. One of the most successful movies this year was Conjuring 4. A movie I don't even think was all that impressive. But on a business level, I get it. You spend I don't know what it was, $30, $35 million. You make $150 million. That's great. Well, that's the other thing, is I don't think that they should be afraid to recast. And if you want to put in some sort of a cosmic explanation, like Franklin Richards warped the world. What did Scarlet Witch do? War Machine looks a little different. Whatever. Sinners and Weapons were two of the best movies I saw this year. And those were both original ideas, horror, reasonably budgeted, made a big profit. I don't know. It's easy to be the armchair quarterback on this movie stuff, but it is a sad fact that the movie going experience has radically changed. Not as many people go to movies. There are still going to be a few hits a year, but there's not going to be as many, and it's not like big budget sci-fi or superhero is not enough to guarantee a hit at all. And as soon as you just acknowledge that that is a fact, you have to approach it much more carefully. Marvel engendered a lot of goodwill because not every movie, you think Thor 2 was that fantastic or no, but they were good and it was fun. Because they didn't do good. Warner Brothers, the movie division, did good, but they are a massive organization, and their TV division lost tons of money that offset any of that, 4 or 5 good movies. Yeah, what put them in that bind? David Zaslav being a bad leader and not watching the accounting on the TV end. They lost tons of money. Thor 2, my argument is not that Thor 2 is bad. My argument is that it was average. And we look back and we're like, man, the MCU used to be so much better. I was like, no, it always had several average movies. And I don't know that I'd look at like Eternals and Thor 2 and just unequivocally go like, Thor 2 is way better than Eternals. It's always had a few average movies that are still just fun. They still are fun. And we'd look at them totally different if they had a reasonable budget and did okay. I feel bad for Chris Eccleston because that was not much of a role. Malekith is honestly a cool villain who's a bit of a funny trickster and has all these cool wizardly powers. And that was nowhere to be seen. Just, I heard that like there was way more to the character and that it got like all hacked away in editing. But yeah, Christopher Eccleston got done dirty on that job. That was not a good role. He could have been, like, we saw how energetic and chaotic he could be as the Doctor, for instance, or how menacing he could be in 28 Days Later. Christopher Eccleston could have done anything, but they buried him in makeup and gave him almost no motivation, nothing interesting to do. He was just nothing. Gore the God Butcher could have been a bigger villain that could have been used in 2 or 3 movies or something like that. I also wish that they'd had him look more comic accurate because I think he looks monstrous. But for what existed within the movie, I think Christian Bale made him interesting and menacing. So if I take it as just a movie and separate it a little bit more, I far prefer the comic. It wasn't a literal adaptation. It took some ideas from it. But I don't think Christian Bale did a bad job as that villain. Not quite. I'm still sort of pecking away at little bits on the Predator. I don't know what to like necessarily add at this point. I don't feel like it's done, no. But both of these are just examples of me sort of playing with inking techniques, just to have an excuse to sort of draw while I chat, more than anything else. Trying to think if there's anything else sort of comic related that I could talk about. Oh, you know what? I can show you something comic related that I got to build. Chrissy did me a favor and cleared out an area that I could build some Lego at that my cats weren't going to just instantly destroy. Let me show you something. I'll be right. I'm just going behind this couch to grab something. Going into the deep background. I have to sort of walk around. I'm coming back. The show's not over yet. But I probably will end it soon. All right. Hi. Tell you what, let me switch to just this. I built this out of Lego. The 60s Batmobile. It's really fun. It's got some amusing features, like if you open up the back here, there's the mobile bat computer, the mobile crime computer, I guess I should call it. Does the front open? I forget. Oh, no, doesn't really do anything. Hold on. Just got to snap that back in place before I forget. So anyway, I love building big Lego sets, and I haven't built them much over the last couple of years because my cats, especially Jack, realized that if he sort of pushes my Lego sets that I've got displayed on shelves around or bites off a brick or something like that, that I would react and I would like get him food or play with him or whatever. So I stopped building for the most part, but Chrissy cleared a little area where I could build it. And yeah, I've got it like in a case down here. So that was fun. That was something that kind of relaxed me. If you look closely, these actually have little bat emblems on that, and that's a printed piece. And these have tons of stickers all over, like bat shoot to like slow them down. Or what does this say? Start button, bat scanner, bat radar, detectoscope. I don't know. Gas. Bat. What? It's too dark. Bat ray. I don't remember the bat ray. So yeah, I've always built the gigantic, as big as they'll make anyway, Batmobiles. I've built like the 89 Batmobile, the Tumbler, a reasonably big, not as big as this, but like reasonably big, Batmobile from the Batman. And now they've finally made this nice one. These aren't quite as detailed as some of the biggest car sets that will have, like, when you move the wheels, the pistons in the engine will individually fire, and you can turn a steering wheel to turn the axle. It doesn't have that, but it was fun to build. It was really fun to build. It's got some funny details. It's got some cool styling, some interesting angles for like how this folds up so that it's at an angle. I don't know. It was nice. It was really fun to build. So that was something I did recently that was fun for me. I don't remember what the Bat Ray does. I support a Patreon called, let me think for a minute. It's also a YouTube channel, but most of their stuff goes to Patreon. I can't remember the name of it, and I want to recommend it because this week they reviewed a Batman episode from the 60s, and it was hilarious. All they do is review like bad movies and stuff. It's audio only. Although sometimes they make videos with clips from the thing. So I don't know what the creators look like is what I'm saying. I'm going to go to my membership on Patreon because I only support one or two. Oh, it's called This Aged Great. This Aged Great. And this week they have a review of a Batman episode where Batman and Robin go up against feminism. It's so bad. Yep. This Aged Great. It's so funny to me. They review some really bad movies. And this week they reviewed 1960s Batman. So anyway, I guess that's as good a time as any to wrap it up. Just I'm noodling around to like fill in all sorts of black, but make sure that like as I sort of create each bit of vinage or whatever, or musculature, that it looks rounded and has consistent shading. And then at some point I'll finish inking like the chest armor and stuff down to about here on the Predator, and then I'll feel like that piece is basically done. So yeah, it was kind of a small week for news and new comics, so I guess that's all I've got. Not that this is a short show by any means. This was a long show. I had fun chatting with everybody. I'm excited to see what comes out for comics in 2026. Someone asked if I'm excited for Avengers. Not super excited. I'm kind of excited for the Spider-Man movie, though. And I'm looking forward to Supergirl as far as superhero movies go. I I don't know if there's anything else for sort of superhero movies and TV that I'm necessarily excited for, but I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised. Like when The Beauty debuts on TV, that could be good. I think that Criminal will come out this year. Yeah, I definitely think so, and I'm looking forward to that. It would be nice if Lanterns was good. I don't know that I'm necessarily excited yet, but I think that the cast is solid. As far as new comics that have been announced, I'm curious about how KO wraps up, and I'm excited to see more of Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman in 2026. I'm enjoying Transformers and G.I. Joe and Ninja Turtles. I think that Derek Kurt Kim's The Last Mermaid is going to return this year, from what I've heard, which, by the way, should have been in my top 10 list. I just forgot that it came out at the beginning of 2025, so that screws up my top 10 list, but it is what it is. What else? At some point, Daniel Warren Johnson's new book will get announced. I have no idea what that is. He's doing some sort of sci-fi book himself. Got the art book, but yeah, I'm excited for whatever that will be. I think Lobo by Scotty Young and Jorge Corona will be cool. I think Peach Momoko's book Psy, that has stuff by guys like Jim Mahfood and Stan Sakai along with her. I think that sounds interesting. Trying to think if there's other stuff that I'm excited for. Well, that's a bunch. It should be a good year in that regard. Well, I am going to go cook a dinner and then probably get right back to editing that Jack Kirby episode, because I promise I want to get that out to you. And to reiterate, would love your support on Patreon, and at the $2 and above levels, you'll get access to an exclusive video once a month. So less than the cost of a single comic. You get an extra episode of Comic Tropes, essay style, so not as heavily edited, but I'm going to start doing it too hot for YouTube. Stuff that either the violence or the nudity is way more extreme, and I don't want to bother trying to butcher it all to hell with editing so that it can be shown on YouTube. Forget all the monetizing stuff. I'm going to just do it as Patreon exclusives. So yeah, that's what I'm going to start doing on Patreon. Yeah, I'm excited for. Are you talking about Kanto, the one set in 85? That looks good. Thank you, everybody. Lots to look forward to. And you know what I'm going to tell you. Keep reading comics. Double salute for the new year. Thanks, everyone. Bye.